welcome back to Yarns for the Soul. I am your host, Nicole, and I'm so excited to have you back here with me. Welcome to another episode. Finally, there's been a bit of a hiatus, but also welcoming everyone to a new year. Hope it is going well and going smoothly. I feel like I haven't really processed or registered the passing of time yet, and the fact that it is another year. I think my brain's still in holiday mode, but excited to be jumping back into the podcast and bring you some new and exciting guests. And the plan is to also give you some mini yarns as well, which might even just be me yarning to myself and hoping that you'll all listen. So if you have been enjoying the podcast, we'd love if you can rate and review on whatever platform you're listening on. Obviously, the ego loves a bit of positive feedback. So let me know what you're thinking. If there's any topics you'd love to hear about, or if you want to be a guest, then yes, please let me know. So first guest of 2023 is a very magical human, Ashalea. She's a Reiki healer. She's kind of discovered her own strength in guiding and empowering women. So on our episode, we yarn about what her journey has looked like, and some of the steps that she took along the way to becoming the magnificent healer that she is today. We also yarn about how emotion and trauma can build up and be stored in the body, and how that might feel and what to look for and how to release that. And we talk about the power of women sharing space together and how we can actually support and help each other through the healing journey. So yeah, lots of magical yarns. I will put her contact details in the show notes for you. Go and check out her website, see how you can work with her, or just go and stalk her on Instagram because her content is always amazing too. Just a note, the audio for this episode is a little bit funny, and because I am not an audio genius, I could not fix it. So you might just have to turn the volume up, and it's a little bit sketchy in places, sorry, but maybe the new year 2023 will allow me to find my inner audio genius. Who knows? Or if you actually know what you're doing, then maybe get in touch with me and we can help each other, Just thank you so much for being here, and let's jump in. Hello everyone, welcome back. I have a lovely guest with me today. Her name is Ashalea Meek. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm just really, really excited to see where our yarns today go, because I know they could go in any direction, and that's great. I love that about our yarns.
Yeah.
We've
had some good yarns over at the retreat.
Yes. Yeah, so we've connected a couple of times in the past, but more recently Ash ran a retreat which I was lucky enough to attend, and it was just the most amazing, incredible space, just this container of women doing all of this amazing work and healing, and have been feeling so much more grounded since then. So thank you so much again for all of that.
Oh yeah, it was just amazing to have you in the space, and all the women that came together just made it what it was. So yeah, thank you.
Yes. Should we start with a little background? It's probably almost one of the hardest questions is like, tell me your life story. Feel free to share whatever you want to share. Give us a bit of a wee intro if you like.
Yeah, of course. I guess the most important part is to share where I come from and perhaps how I entered this space and the work that I'm doing. So I'm from Oamaru originally and lived there for solid 16 years, and then decided it was time to really expand out of Oamaru and step into a city. And so I moved to Christchurch for a while, and I'm going to condense this down, of course, because this could go in so many directions, of course.
It's
But
okay.
at a really young age, I knew that I needed to move to Australia. So yeah, I had this deep inner knowing that I needed to move, and yeah, I moved to Australia when I was 21 with my partner. Yeah, and we had a phenomenal time and so much fun and all the good stuff. But around 21, 20, I think around 22, I started to experience some chronic hip pain. So yeah, I was around 22 and, just living life and having a great time.
Yeah.
However, also suppressed a lot of emotions in my body.
Yeah.
And this was all very new to me, and I actually had no idea. And yeah, at 22, I experienced this hip pain, like I was saying, and I went down quite a few different modalities and definitely went through mainstream and trying to figure that out, which was great. And I learned a lot, and that did not help me.
Oh no.
However, it helped me learn and find this understanding that I had suppressed a lot of emotions, and that led me down to going to Reiki and body talk and kinesiology and all these beautiful modalities, and just trying to understand, like, why have I got this chronic hip pain? I mean, like,
Yeah.
I would try and sleep at night and I could feel my whole right side body, just my right hip right down through my leg, which is like zoof, zoof, zoof. It was just
Wow.
intense,
Just constant.
constant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so on my path, obviously going to lots of different modalities, and I went to this one Reiki session with this beautiful woman who then become my teacher. But
Ah.
she, yeah, so I remember the first time I had Reiki, and she put her hands on me,
Yeah.
and I just cried the entire session.
I
And
know.
I was like, oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
so much energy had been built up in my body that I had suppressed. And, it was just so many little small traumas that had never been seen or felt or heard
Yeah.
had condensed into some big traumas, and luckily I never experienced any major traumas in my life, but lots of little tiny ones can actually turn into big ones, right? So
Yeah,
they're not
exactly.
looked at. And yeah, so that was my experience. And I remember, so I would go to her for a while, and I
Yeah.
remember a woman, a friend actually, she was just like, oh yeah, how's your hip, and I was like, I was like a couple of weeks, like I'd been doing it for a while, and I guess I didn't realize that my hip pain had gone. It was
Wow.
weird. It was like I didn't realize until someone asked me, and I was like, oh my gosh, it is completely gone. It's not my experience. It's not my reality anymore. Whereas I was so
Yes.
deep in it, and it was because it was so present. Pain is present. You're in it, and you feel
Yeah.
it, and it's
Yeah, you
just
can't escape.
you talk about it more, and you create it even more. And
Yeah.
yeah, so my body had moved through that pain, and that really led me to this. I was like, wow, that opened up a lot for me, and I really decided to that I knew I wanted to support other people to be able to do some healing work and allow the emotions to come out. And yeah, so that was sort of my journey to get it into Reiki. However, obviously so much has unfolded out of that and
Yeah.
everything, but yeah.
So how long did you spend in Australia?
I was there for about 5 years.
Oh wow. What part of Australia did you live in?
So we moved to New South Wales first, and we
Yep.
were there for a couple of months, and we decided to drive over to Perth, and
Wow.
yeah, which was where we spent the rest of our like 4.5 years in Perth, and we absolutely
Yep.
loved Perth. It was just, yeah, it was like I said, I knew I needed to move to Australia, and it was definitely an amazing part of my journey, and so much fun and expansion
Yeah.
and growing and finding out who I am. And I think a huge part of that is moving away from my hometown and really being able to come into my own and not having this feeling of wanting to, I don't know, keep other people happy, and just really find who I was. And that was a huge part of my
Yes.
journey in Perth. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. And did you learn Reiki while you were over there from the lady that you went to see?
Yes, so I loved this woman so much and what she had to offer and how she supported me. And then, of course, she had some training coming up,
Yes.
just
I
fine
love
timing.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I did my Reiki 1 and 2 with this woman and continued to see her in between. And then, yeah, and then that unfolded me to begin training in yoga. And I went to Bali and did my training over there. And then, yeah, so there was just my time in Perth was funny because I was actually a qualified hairdresser, so I had a hairdressing business.
All
So I'd be
right.
doing hairdressing for myself, and I'd be driving to women's houses and doing their hair for them. And then in between, I was like just doing all this training and like growing. And so yeah, it was really cool, and it was
Yes.
great because I could work my business around all the trainings and everything that I wanted to learn and upskill
Yeah.
in. So yeah, I was just really lucky, but I created it at the same time. But
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. How did you find, like, hairdressing seems to be like, it could be quite a stressful job and you're constantly connecting with people and being people's counselors sometimes, like they tell you everything. And energetically, like, how did you find that?
Yeah, I honestly feel like hairdressing prepared me really well for the work that I would be entering into.
Ah,
Yes, it was really challenging because it's a lot. Yeah, you are a lot of the time people are expressing so much, and I was doing mobile, so I was also going to people's homes. So
yeah.
naturally, I feel a lot, and so I was going into people's spaces and I feel like I was going doing their hair and I was also like a counselor at the same time, and they'd walk away feeling amazing, and then sometimes they'd walk away like, oh my god, I feel like I need to go to the ocean and recharge. So
Yes.
yeah, but equally, yeah, I did enjoy. I love making people feel good. Yeah, but
Mm,
yeah, energetically it was a lot
yeah. And did
different.
you,
Sorry, carry on.
yeah, that's all right. Did you kind of feel called to come back to New Zealand at some point? So how did that journey kind of unfold?
Yeah, so as much as I loved Perth, there was this homesick feeling, and I would often go to the ocean, probably like most days.
Wow.
And yeah, like that's like I was saying, that huge part of my connection with myself really came online. And
Mm,
for so long, I had been kind of distracting myself rather than kind of sitting with
yeah,
myself. But
tuning
after
in.
the ocean, and I
Mm,
just sometimes I'd sit there and just be tears of joy and happiness just from being in that space, and felt so connected. And then I remember just this one time I got this download, this message of like, it's time to move back home. And it was like
wow.
this feeling as if I had done what I needed to do there in that moment, and New Zealand was definitely calling me back. But every time I would come back from Perth before that, I'd always be looking forward to going back to Perth. So like
Mm,
I'd come home and I would have a great time, but I would always be like, yes, I can't wait to go back to Perth.
wow.
However, the last trip that we had, I was like, I turned to my partner Shane and I was like, oh, I could move back now. And
Yeah.
just this feeling of like, I can actually see myself back here now. And that was the first, yeah, one of the first moments too that I was like, wow, I didn't actually think that I would feel this for a long time.
Mm,
And then, yeah, just this feeling of like it's time. And then
yeah.
there was a new part of my journey and my chapter that I didn't really know was going to unfold. And
Yes.
yeah, so yeah, there's a feeling and a knowing, and just trusting that knowing. And luckily, my partner is pretty easygoing. He's like, whatever.
Like, I'll just follow you.
Yeah, pretty much. He's really happy, and he did miss. He's a full-on hunter-gathering bloke,
Yeah.
so he was like, "Okay, yep, I could get on this bandwagon. I'm excited to get back and go hunting and
Yes.
fishing and everything." So,
Yeah. So what part of New Zealand did you come back to?
oh, funny. So Shane, my partner's from Invercargill, and so we
Oh,
landed
right.
there for a couple of months, which
Yeah.
was a big shock to the system, I have to say.
Yes.
Going from Perth, and we planned the timing when it was like entering summer. We thought this will
Oh,
really
good.
support us, and it was
Still
actually like one
cold.
of the worst summers that they've had on record. So,
But
so
you
yeah,
tried.
we tried, and it was quite funny, and there was moments of
Mm,
a lot of challenge and ups and downs, highs and lows, as you can imagine. And
yeah.
yeah, and then my dad actually initiated Twizel, my partner's work, and there was a lot of construction going on in
Yeah.
Twizel, and this area wasn't foreign to me because I grew up spending my holidays in Otamatata, which is only half an hour away, and so
Yes.
I had a real deep connection with this area, not Twizel such, but with Otamatata, and it was always like my
Mm.
happy place that I would go to. So when he said Twizel, we actually drove up for a weekend, and we just found this amazing plot of land, and it was
Ah,
just the most stunning. Like, this is the land we're on now, and we
yes.
actually just, it was just like this deep knowing, and we bought it that night,
Wow.
and yeah, we just, so we bought it, and then we carried on. We just sort of made it happen, and we actually
Mm.
moved to Otamatata for a couple of months while we waited
Oh,
for a
nice.
house to get built.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was going from like this big city to these tiny little towns. But it
Yes.
was so funny because me and my partner, we like looked at each other one day, and we were like, shit, we really manifested this, because we used to sit in
Mm.
Perth sometimes and be like, oh, I wish I lived in the middle of nowhere. And here we are.
You did it.
Yeah. So we landed in Twizel. That's where we are right now. We've been here for about
Mm.
3.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a cool spot.
Uh,
We have an amazing space here, and yeah,
yeah.
just really it really supports me in the work that I'm doing, all this open space.
It always looks magical. Like, I don't know exactly where you live, but I know the area and all of your like stories on Instagram. I'm just like, oh, I wish I was there with you. It just looks so magical. And your animals.
Yes, well, you're welcome to come anytime. Yeah, the
Thank you.
chickens, free range, they're living their best life. Everyone's living their
Yes.
best life.
Did you like when you were growing up? Could you have imagined that this would be your lifestyle now? Is this what you had wanted?
I never really thought about that, to be honest. I never thought I would end up in Twizel.
Yeah.
And I always, like I was saying, I always had this deep pull to go to Australia. And so I
Mm.
kind of pictured myself there for a long time. And I never really knew what my life looked like past that, which is really interesting.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I definitely would have never expected myself to be here. But I think that's what I love the most about it.
Yes.
It just works so well for me. And who knows? We could be here for a while. We could not be here for a while. I've got no real
Mm.
attachments to this space, and I'm just deeply grateful for everything that it's provided us so far. We'll
Mm.
just see what sort of unfolds in the years. Yeah.
Exciting. Yeah, I love sort of thinking back to what I'd imagined my life would look like by the time I was this age and going in one direction and then completely changing and shifting and now doing something completely different. But being really excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
so true. I think a lot of people have this idea of what their life is going to look like and what they're going to do, and almost when they get to that space and that age, there can be a lot of inner criticism and judgment, and
Mm.
so much can unfold for people when you sit in that. So yeah, I can
Yeah.
understand that feeling.
Mm. So, what does work look like for you now? Are you still doing Reiki?
Yes, so I
Yeah.
am mostly doing Reiki.
Yeah.
Being they live in Twizel, it is very much mostly all distance, because the
Yeah.
women that I work with are scattered all around,
Mm-hmm.
and some over the other side of the world, which is really exciting that I get to connect with
Awesome.
people from all over, and I'm definitely deeply grateful for that. Um, so yeah, mostly all Reiki,
Yeah.
and holding like group containers for women, and I also, been locally teaching some yoga in Twazel recently, which has been
Oh,
really fun.
nice.
So, yeah,
Yes.
mostly all online, and yeah, but feeling really called to do more in-person stuff. So I have recently doing a couple of like group ceremonies with cacao, and
Mm,
um, yeah, just been traveling a little bit for that. So definitely look to be
cool.
doing a little bit more of that in the future because I really love bringing women together in groups. So
Mm,
something about it that just makes me feel really activated. So yeah.
yes. I really want to jump into that. But before we move on, for people that don't know much or anything about Reiki, if you can give us a short spiel about what Reiki is, what it looks like.
Yeah, beautiful, of course. So yeah, you can do distance Reiki or in person. Traditionally, you probably heard of it mostly being in person, but you can channel and send Reiki across time and space. You don't have to be in the same space to receive healing. And mostly when it comes to all healing, it is all about intention. So with Reiki, we are channeling universal life force energy, and we are channeling that through the receiver's chakras and helping to remove any stuck, stagnant energy that is really not supporting them in where they want to go. So that can unfold mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. So it really depends on where that soul is in their journey, and
Mm,
perhaps what's ready to be released and to be seen and to be felt and to be heard. And I'm a big believer in feeling all emotions so that you can actually move
mm,
forward. And I know that's not always the most comfortable thing and what we want to hear.
no.
However, it is the most freeing, and it is definitely, yeah, a lot more long lasting if you can feel and let it move through your body and shift out. So,
Mm,
yeah, how you can experience Reiki when you're with someone or in distance is almost like this pure bubble of bliss feeling, and a lot of people can feel the energy moving through them, and
mm,
they can feel the heat and the tingling, and a lot of the time the heat is like an activation happening and a moving of energy. A lot of people can feel a lot of like gurgling in their stomach because we can hold so much in our
ah,
belly, so
yes.
a lot of stuff can be happening through there. There is just so many things that you can experience. Like I cried a lot when I was doing Reiki because there was
Yeah.
so much built up
Mm,
in my body. But depending on where you're at in your journey, some people feel a lot of expansion and they can feel the energy expanding out, and yeah,
mm,
just feeling like real light and um, yeah, more connected to who they are, and being held by someone who can really see and hold you in all that you
mm,
are is so extremely healing and powerful. And I think
yeah.
that's what I hear a lot from people is like just being seen and like held in this is like just gives them so much freedom to
Mm,
find out who they are and to really connect inward and yeah, just feel more themselves. So that's a rough, brief
yes.
description of what can unfold, but honestly, it can go
Mm,
beyond and so beyond. And I've had some experiences
yeah.
where some yeah, really, really amazing, cool things happen. But like I
Mm,
said, you only ever get what you're ready and what you need, and I think that's the most
mm,
beautiful thing when it comes to Reiki healing is yeah, you will only ever get what you're ready to receive. So it always meets you where you're at.
yes. I love that. I was wondering, do you get like particular types of people seeking you out, or like people like you spoke about at the start of your journey when you've got this physical pain, like manifestation, and you've tried everything else and nothing else works? Do you get people like that? That are sort
Yeah.
of like, I just need something to help.
Yeah, I have to be honest, when I first begun, I definitely
Mm.
attracted more of those people who were in a lot of
Ah.
pain in their body and yeah, really needing this like freedom from that pain
Mm.
and I definitely still see it now, but it has definitely the people who perhaps are drawn to me are a lot of them are coming for a lot of um, deeper self
Mm.
connection to
Yeah.
their spirituality and to their body. And they might not necessarily have a lot of pain at the beginning. yeah, everyone's very different, but I've definitely noticed it has unfolded and it has shifted. But I welcome everybody, and if you have a physical pain, there, it's always trying to guide you back into your body, right? So,
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, like even people I can think of in my life that have sort of tried the more traditional routes to try and heal whatever's going on for them. And I like that it is starting to be more accepted to look outside the kind of traditional box of what might help you and
yeah,
look deeper and look like on an energetic level as well and try and clear out all of that.
yes, like a very holistic approach and everything. Like, yes, if there's pain, there's usually something emotional pain that's
Yes.
sitting within that pain, and then they're starting to uncover and allow that to start to unravel and, be held by someone who understands that, when you cry and when you release emotions, it's safe and it's great and it's powerful and it's so necessary and needed to shift through that. So then you
Mm.
usually, yeah, you start with the body and then it starts to uncover and unravel more for you. And then you start to realize, oh, there's more to this healing or this
Yes.
Reiki or whatever, it's like this is deeper. Yeah, depending on
Mm.
how far you want it to go, I guess.
Mm. Oh, I love that. And I want to go back to, because obviously you hosted the retreat recently. When did you first sort of feel called to host retreats and put together packages in that way?
Yeah, amazing. So that was my fifth retreat that I run,
Oh,
and one
cool.
that you came to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So it's so funny. How I was telling you that I was in the car with my partner, and that was the first time we were in New Zealand, and I decided I could move back here.
Yes.
In that exact same conversation, I said to
Oh,
my partner, I was like, I am going to go to Bali and I'm going to do my yoga training.
oh yes.
I was like, because this is when I really decided that, yeah, this
Mm.
is what I'm going to do. And I was just this clear knowing. I was like, I'm going to come back here and I am going to create retreats and I'm going to create a shift in New Zealand.
Mm.
And that was in that car in that moment. I remember that conversation like it was like yesterday. And
Oh, I love
Shane
it.
looked at me and he's like, okay, cool. When are you going? I was like, as soon as I can. And I got back and I found one space. I'm at Blooming Lotus in Bali and Ubud, which
Wow.
was, you had to apply and all the things, but it was just so aligned. Everything was so effortless and it just naturally unfolded exactly how it needed to. And
Mm.
so, yeah, I knew in that moment that I was going to come back and I was going to be offering a lot more. I didn't know how much, but I did know.
Yes.
So that was the moment where I knew. And then I came back after I did all my training, and I luckily, beautifully started to in Perth, was teaching over there with a woman who I used to, before I did my training, I used to follow her for years and I'd go to all her classes. And
Oh, right.
I absorbed a lot from her and I'm very grateful for her.
Mm.
And yeah, started practicing in her studio at the beginning, which was really cool. But yeah, came back after all that, and honestly, I ran my first retreat really soon after coming back to New Zealand,
Oh, cool.
and it was just a phenomenal group of women that came together. And yeah, that was the very beginning. That would have been like 5 years ago now, 5 years ago. Yeah, so that
Mm.
sparked. I loved it. I loved holding spaces for women. There's something about for me of bringing women together and
Mm.
healing. I feel like there is a lot of healing to do in
Yes.
women and women connections, and we can unpack that a lot. There's a lot there,
Yeah.
and then I've healed a lot from my own experiences in high school and all the things. And yeah, I feel like when I bring women together, I feel like this is what I'm meant to do: is bring people together, reconnecting back with ourselves, but also so we can have
Mm.
like less judgment towards each other and less competition
Yes.
and more inspiration.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
then that
that's yes.
unfolded into, sorry, I cut you off. That
No.
unfolded from like retreats, and then it unfolded into holding group containers online, and so that I could
Mm.
do both. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Like, I remember how the nerves that I was feeling walking into the retreat, like not knowing who else is going to be there, what journey they're on. And like, yeah, as you said, reconnecting with yourself, but it was that container and that group of women that allowed you to do that reconnecting. And it's amazing the work that you can do with just putting women in a circle together. You don't need like any of the traditional kind of what we would think of as healing, but it's the idea of creating space to heal each other and holding space for one another, which I think is so beautiful that that's what you're leaning into. And same with the online container that you've created now.
Yeah, there's something about, like you said, bringing women together, and not necessarily for, you don't see it as like a healing session, but it's so deeply
Mm,
healing to be held, and it's almost like you're being seen for all of you.
mm,
And there's something so incredibly empowering about that. And when you bring women together in a group who are all on different journeys, but you realize that you're all kind of going through really similar things, and you start
mm,
to really look at everyone differently. And I think that's like a huge part of the healing journey, is to really accept everybody for where they're at.
mm. And yeah, I mean, as you said, there's so much that you could unpack behind all of that. And like historically, kind of women kind of shrinking themselves to fit into a space or what society tells them that they're supposed to look like or to serve someone else. So
Oh
it
my
still
gosh.
feels like this sort of radical idea almost that this group of women can sit there and put themselves first.
Yeah, yeah. And when you see someone like almost free from that, it's just like the most
Mm,
amazing experience for me to see someone really let that go and actually, like, you know what, I can be seen, and it's safe to be seen, and it's safe to show up in my power, and it's safe to allow everything that I want.
yeah.
Whereas, like you said, for a long time, it's sort of like dimming down and not really wanting to be judged or seen as too much or too this or whatever it may be for you. And yeah, to be in a space where you're so freaking held in like all of who you are and your desires and your dreams and all the things that maybe have held you back, and to be like, you know
Yes.
what, it is safe to go all in, and you're celebrated for that rather than like, you know, condensed down. So yeah,
Mm,
so freak and healing.
yes. Um, yeah, I wonder if you can give a brief sort of like overview of what it looks like for you to physically create that space for women, like what's involved, I guess, preparation a bit as well on your end, and how does it actually look for people that haven't done this before?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of preparation that goes into a
Yeah.
retreat, of course,
Yes.
especially like the one that you came to, receive retreat was to
Yes.
hold women in their power and to activate them into a way of allowing them to align with their highest life and allow themselves to be seen. And so that was the
Mm,
intention behind receive. So that was a really powerful energy. So it really asked a lot from me,
yeah.
and of course, I had to live that within my own physical reality to be even able to hold that
Mm,
kind of space. So, as you can imagine, that means me really living in my own power and in my own
yes.
authenticity and really showing up for myself on the daily,
Yeah.
whilst also holding myself through your natural human experiences of the highs and the lows, and all
Mm,
that kind of stuff that unfolds. So, energetically, there was a lot of preparation and, allowing any doubts, any self doubts that come through, and just like, okay, thank you for that. Let you carry on by, and
yes.
really stepping into that, because
Mm,
naturally, when you're expanding yourself and you're stepping into this new realm or this new way of being, it's going to stretch you and it's going to challenge you and it's going to bring up all of your shadow that needs to be coming out so that you
mm,
can step fully into it. So, of course, I went through things like that.
yeah.
Um, and then there's all the logistical human structures of obviously setting up
Yes.
a retreat and having the right space that can contain the energy that you want everyone to feel, pulling in
Mm,
the women that also hold really similar intentions to you, who can hold people in a really healing space. And I feel like I drawn some beautiful women who just have the
Mm,
most amazing presence and could really hold people. And that's exactly what I wanted everyone to feel, is really held and supported in that space. And the other women who came in, who did their little bits of their gifts and
yes.
shared their medicine, were just phenomenal. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with how it all unfolded. Um, yeah, and then obviously having like little logistics like food and like everything aligning,
Yeah.
like there's a lot. But yeah, I think once you've done your first retreat, you get a really great foundation, and then you're like, okay, this worked, that didn't work, gonna do this, gonna add that,
Mm,
gonna let go of this, and so it becomes a little bit easier as you kind of go on. Yeah. So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, because I'd done, like when I lived in Auckland, I'm not quite sure how I found her, but there was a lady that sort of did the women's circle idea. And she, yeah, had like the most amazing bubbly energy. And I think I went to two different ones. Um, and there was obviously something that was kind of pulling me towards that because no one I know had talked about it or done anything like that. I probably just saw it on Instagram or something, and it was close to where I lived. So I was like, we'll give that a go and see what happens. And there was maybe like 20 women, almost 20, just kind of sitting in a circle. And there was like a meditation aspect and also sharing, like going around the circle. And there was just something about that was just so moving. But I wonder what your view is on like women's circle versus like a whole retreat, because obviously the retreat was kind of over a whole weekend, so it's probably more powerful. But I know that I've heard of other people out there that host like women's circle for an hour or two.
Yeah, I find women's circles extremely powerful, and um, yeah, I've run quite a few myself, just
Mm,
individually, separate, not in retreats, and yeah, so extremely powerful, especially for women who perhaps don't, have that space to take an entire weekend. They can actually
mm,
take a few hours for themselves. And just recently, a couple of girlfriends and I, we held this. It was called Expand. It was a sacred journey back to the heart, and it was a cacao slash woman circle that turned
yeah.
into yin yoga whilst sound healing, and
Wow.
I feel like so much can unfold in a few hours, especially when you're
Mm,
held in that space. But there is something about, obviously, in a retreat you're with those women for the entire weekend, so there becomes this like
mm,
really deep foundation, which is really powerful. But yeah, I feel like women circles coming together and expressing yourself and being seen and held is really, really powerful. And I would highly recommend it if you get the chance and there's someone local doing one.
yes.
Jump, jump,
Yeah.
jump. You've got nothing to lose, right? And you can only, um, yeah, only gain from being held in a space with other women. And
Mm,
yeah, to even if you don't feel like sharing and it's too much at the beginning and too vulnerable for you, you can
yep.
just sit on the outside and just listen and absorb, and then maybe you'll go to another one day and you'll start to build that courage and that throat chakra energy to be able to speak and let yourself
Mm,
be heard, because I know that can be really challenging for a lot of us, is actually allowing ourselves to be heard. And it can obviously stem from so many things, um, and not feeling safe.
yeah. It was amazing just, yeah, sitting in those spaces and having, I think everyone probably shared on different levels, as you say, depending on how comfortable you're feeling and how vulnerable you want to be in that time. And some of the stories that people shared, it for me at that point kind of just felt like next level vulnerable. But at the same time, that kind of almost feels like it gives you permission to go there and go to those places because you're like, oh, well, she shared that. And that was so powerful. And also, yeah, it's like that connection, even though it's people that you've never met before.
Mm,
And yeah, hearing their stories and that perspective as well, like when you're not alone, like
yeah,
everyone else has their own stories and their own journeys. um and just knowing that there's spaces like that where you
yeah.
can show up and share is amazing.
And I feel like it's a testament to the woman who held that space. I think it is a huge part of the person who is holding the space sets the tone, and whether
Mm,
everyone feels safe to really, drop in. the more vulnerable you can be, usually the better you'll feel afterwards. You're like, oh
Yes.
my gosh, I feel like I let something go there, and it's just the most amazing feeling. But yeah, safety does come a lot from the person who is holding that space.
Mm.
And the subtle masculine structure that holds that woman circle is
Mm.
usually the person holding that space. And it does require a lot. So it's huge
Yeah.
that someone steps in and holds that space. And I've had to remind myself that, many times I'm like, wow, it actually is huge to step into hold those kind of spaces, because it does ask a lot of you as well. So
Mm.
mm,
And I guess the same sort of concept, but do you see this working just in terms of relationships and friendships, like catching up with a friend and maybe they've been going through something really difficult? Can the same thing apply? Like, what would that look like to you?
yeah, of course, I feel like the
Yeah.
more that you can be vulnerable and share and allow yourself to be seen, the better life is, right? The more that we close
Mm.
ourselves off, pretend like we've all got it going on and all
Yeah.
together, it's just, it can be such a disservice to you. And sometimes you can live in this like a mask almost, right? So the more that
Mm.
you can share, and like you get to tune in and tap into what feels right and aligned, and what you feel safe to share with those people close to you. But personally, I'm very lucky that I have some amazing women in my life that I feel like I can share anything with. It was just extremely freeing, and I feel like vice versa for them. They can,
Yes.
but it's this unspoken knowing that it's going to stay in that space, right? Like
Mm.
I feel like
Yeah.
you'll have those women who you just know that you can share anything, and you can be so accepted, and that it doesn't leave that space. So there is that safety, and I think that's a huge part
Mm.
for a lot of people, is like, how much do I share, because how safe do I feel? How safe do I feel
Mm.
to be able to share? And so yeah, personally, I feel like if you can really call in those women who you do feel safe to share and to open yourself up, and vice versa, that's how we heal that woman, that sisterhood wound too, right? It's like this deep
Mm.
trust. And like you would have heard me say at the retreat, the women's circle, whatever is expressed and shared, and in this circle and in this retreat, it stays here. There's no need
Mm.
for it to come up anywhere else, unless that person brings it up themselves. Like, it
Yeah.
just doesn't go anywhere. And I think that's a huge part of the foundations of like anchoring that masculine structure, and of knowing that yes, you are safe here, you can share, and it's, all of you is welcome, and it's
Mm.
not going to, turn into another story outside of the space. So I think
Yeah.
that's huge. Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because I just, I've got some amazing girlfriends, and I
Yes.
just said to them, I want to hold a woman's circle, goddess circle for just us. And it's going to be this, like, where it's like, I think it's like 7 or 8 of us perhaps. And
Yeah.
I'm going to hold the circle, and with the intention of just deep sisterhood healing, and holding and
Mm.
allowing and sharing, and just sisterhood, right? Anything that
Yeah.
comes up. And that's next weekend, which I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited that I get to hold that. So
Awesome.
yeah, so I'll let you know how it goes, but
Yes.
it gets to be that good.
Mm. Oh, I love it. I was wondering if you have any suggestions, I guess, if you've got someone like in your life who might be going through something or you feel like you can see them struggling, how do you become that person that can hold space for them? Is there any suggestions you'd have on that?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. I love that. And I feel like a huge part of that is like really sitting with them and sinking into the space, and actually feeling them. And I feel like a lot of people maybe tapping into this podcast probably are, quite sensitive and feel, and you can usually feel when
Mm.
someone's a little bit off, not
Yeah.
quite themselves, maybe feeling really overwhelmed. So I guess that's an opportunity to sit with them and like, how you doing? And I feel like it's
Mm.
all about your intention. When someone asks you how you doing, but when you come in and you're like, how are you doing? And there's this
Mm.
different energy about it, and that the person's like giving you an opportunity to really share. perhaps how they're feeling, or just asking if they need any support. Um,
Mm.
yeah, it's a huge one. I normally can feel when someone's feeling off, but of course, we all have good and bad days. There's always
Yes.
something that we have to acknowledge, and someone might not necessarily say that they're having a bad day, but you can feel it. You can feel it.
Mm.
They're saying, "I'm great," but you can listen to their body language, and you can see, like,
Yes.
like, "How are you?" They say they're good, but they're actually nodding their head no at the same time, like, "I'm not good." And you can pick up on those little subtle cues, or whether the eye, if they can, look you in the eye or not, those little things like that. And yeah, just knowing, I guess, that you're here if they need to reach out. I think that's a
Mm.
huge part. Is just, yeah, here if you need. It doesn't have to be this big ordeal. It can just be like, I'm here if you need to reach out
Yep.
to me, and I get it. And some days are hard. And yeah, if
Mm.
you're picking up some of those subtle cues
Yep.
that perhaps maybe they aren't doing so great. Yeah.
Mm. And I guess on that as well, like for people that tend to feel stuff quite heavily and even other people's emotions when you're sitting with someone in that space and trying to help them feel through it, how would you like protect your own energy levels in that situation?
Yeah, of course. I feel like this is different for everybody. Some people feel
Mm.
like they do take on other people's energy, um,
Mm.
which isn't always a bad thing. It depends on whether or not you have the tools to
Mm.
support you through that, right? So, for the
Yeah.
likes of myself, I can happily, easily actually feel other people's energy and other people's pain, and I know that I can help them transmute that and release that, and I know that I don't take it on.
Mm.
However, if perhaps you don't quite have the tools and you feel like
Yeah.
you take it on and you maybe hold on to it for the rest of the week,
Yeah.
that is not ideal, of course. So that's a huge part of it. And one thing I do want to say that is, if you are someone who really likes to go into people's spaces and to help move them through that and sit with them,
Mm.
is just making sure that after you do it, go onto the earth, put your feet on the ground,
Mm.
with the intention just to, let any energy move through your body that's not yours. And your
Yeah.
intention is everything, always, especially when it comes to energy and everything. So get your feet on the earth, 5 minutes, and just literally visualize anything, any energy that's not yours, just releasing down through your body, literally down through the soles of your feet. And you may even visualize roots coming down, and anything that you need that's going to support you and feeling like you're released. And just keep going until you can feel like that shift, because you'll notice you're like, oh,
Mm.
okay, it's actually moved through my body. So that's one simple, really easy thing that anyone
Cool.
can do, is just to, if you feel
Mm.
like you've taken on someone else's energy, just, yeah, release it through the earth. Um, yeah, that's a huge one. And there is
Yeah.
other things
Thank
that,
you.
you can set intentions, and, someone's,
Mm.
if you know someone is already in like a really challenging space and you feel like it could be actually really hard for you, even though you want to be there for them, it can be really challenging for you.
Yes.
You can set a beautiful intention, and it could look like something like, I am going to be kind and loving and, um, compassionate, but I'm also not going to allow myself to take on any energy. And
Mm.
just setting that really simple but powerful intention out to your body. Um, and then, of course, if that doesn't work and you still take it on, just release it into the earth.
Yes.
Yeah. That those are two things that, anyone
Cool.
can do, and it's still like you're doing it with love, and, still to really support
Mm.
that person. Just also honoring you and your body and your capacity. And there's always going to be different days where you have more capacity to hold for other people than other days, right?
Mm.
Mm.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. I think I'm still figuring out how to kind of ground myself and help others without taking too much on board. And particularly, I think some of the work that I used to do, I wasn't probably as aware as I needed to be about how much I took on from other people. And I think being empathetic and caring actually helped me be good at my job. But the flip side meant I wasn't really looking after myself or not prioritizing time, at the end of the day to switch off and ground and release that back in. And I think people in probably any sort of work environment will probably experience the same thing because there's so much happening around you. And if you're not conscious of your energy, then you just take that home with you.
Yeah, gosh, yes. You can, your day just accumulates in your body, and there's so much stimulation, so much unfolding and happening that, yeah, that grounding technique that I said to you, if you're holding space with someone, also, I like when I'm doing mentoring clients with women and, they're taking on a lot, and kids come home from school and they're also bringing energy back from,
Yes.
from kids at the school. There's so much there. A
Yeah.
really powerful way to really help you before you even enter into your house. You don't want to really bring that in, right? It's like, can you get your feet on the earth straight away and just intentionally
Yeah.
release that, clear that, let it all just melt through, whatever you need to do, and then I walk inside and okay, it's like almost like this shift. You get to create this like energetic shift between, work and then in home, rather than bringing it in home
Yes.
and then like the kids are going nuts and you're like, oh my god, and you're like, you're coming from all these directions and you're triggering and you're coming from a place where you potentially don't want to. So that can really help people, just create like a nice, what's the word I'm looking for? You know what I
Yes. Yeah.
mean?
I guess it's like a boundary, like a
Yeah,
threshold. You literally step over the threshold into a different
yeah,
space.
that's right. Yeah, you're like stepping out of one reality into the next, and so you can be more present in that
Mm,
space.
yeah. Ah, thank you so much for sharing those. I
Yeah,
definitely have to try those.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, I'd love to hear a bit more about the work you're doing now with Reclaim. So you're doing some online, I was going to say coaching, but it's not really coaching, like holding space for women. Do you want to share a bit more about that?
Oh, I love this. Yeah, so Reclaim is an offering that I have, which is a one-on-one mentorship and healing portal. So it is a little bit of coaching because along everything that I trained, I actually am a coach as well. So
Ah, you can do everything.
and yeah, I got really into the coaching and I loved it, and then sort of realized that the coaching training that I did was actually more to support me with my Reiki clients. So when
Ah,
you have a Reiki session with me, it's a real mixed bag of everything that I've trained throughout
yes.
my 10-year journey, right? So
Mm,
it's like, yes, it's Reiki, but it's so much more than Reiki. And so that is what Reclaim is a combination of everything that I have done. And these women who are entering the space, it's called Reclaim because there's an element of literally reclaiming all that they are and shedding and releasing
yes.
all that they are not. Which means really stepping into their power, stepping into their voice, letting themselves be seen. So typically, the reclaim is for women who are in business, and when you're in business, it usually requires a lot of personal development and a lot of
Yeah.
stepping into your truth. And so I find having a business or stepping into that, or even just like a creation or a hobby or something that you kind of passionate you turn into, business or what
Mm,
have you, is just so powerful because you can't help but grow. So yeah, Reclaim is a healing and mentorship program and
mm,
learning energetics, simple things like I just was saying about grounding, learning things like this to really help you shift energy, help you
yeah.
really harness your own energy and be in your own energy, and really understand and uncover who you are and let that ripple out into your soul business and what it is that
Mm,
you're here to do, and perhaps help you activate and allow what it is that you really deeply want to create here on earth in this lifetime. And I think that's a huge part of my journey, is like a empowerment and an activation, and allowing and really seeing that within that person and helping them see it.
mm,
So
yes.
sometimes we just need that permission and that, like, yes, I am worthy and I can do this and I deserve it and this is my dreams and I can have it. And yeah, so there's a lot that unfolds in these beautiful
Oh,
offerings. And
yes.
then yeah, so that's. But I am going to be having a group one coming up in the new year. I
Oh,
really felt
exciting.
called to create a group online called Rise.
Mm,
So that's something that has just
nice.
been sitting with me for a while, similar to Reclaim. And although you
Mm,
don't need to be in business, it's going to be for everyone who
Ah,
into
that's so exciting.
sisterhood at the same time, and yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I wonder with the work you've been doing with Reclaim, is there any particular themes that have come up? Any sort of blockages that like more than one of your clients have been
Yeah,
struggling with, particularly in business?
yeah.
Mm,
A lot of self judgment and
mm,
what
yeah.
they feel like they are capable of, which obviously does
Ah,
stem down a lot to you know family. It really comes out. It comes out
yes.
a lot to what it was like, what you seen when you were younger, what you thought was possible, and really
Mm,
clearing a lot of this old stuff that sometimes you just sort of think, oh, I'll never need to revisit that again. And it just
yes.
keeps coming up.
Yeah. It'll
Because,
keep coming back.
yeah, these deep self worth, deep
Yeah.
self worth things do come up, and they're coming up to be seen and felt and heard so we can really shift through them. And so they're actually really beautiful. And I love when things like that come
Mm,
up because it means you get a chance to really see it and know that there is nothing wrong with it. Every emotion that we have, there is nothing wrong with it. It's just trying to guide us more to what needs to be seen and moved through so we can step deeper into what it is that you want to create. So that's a big
mm,
theme. Judgment, self judgment, got being hard on
yeah.
ourselves. I'm just trying to. There's been at the beginning, I noticed that like each woman was quite like in a really similar place, and as we're kind of like midway through, we're more now starting to step into the business part. So I should
Mm,
kind of backtrack with Reclaim. Is that first half of Reclaim? We are really working with your own physical body first, so
yes.
we are clearing the energy within your own body, and then in the second half of Reclaim, it really steps into working with your business and the soul of your business. And I believe that your business is a direct line of communication with your physical body. So of
Mm,
course, if you've got lots of things holding you back within your own body, it's going to hold you back within your business. So
yeah.
that's why we start with your body first, and then we get to unravel and step into the full expression of your business. So yeah,
Mm.
we've just started stepping into the business part this week, and it's been really
Ooh,
fascinating to see what
yes.
unfolds.
I love that you brought up yeah, like it's just the deep sort of self worth stuff that, all that stuff that comes up through childhood that, as you said, you sort of were like, oh, we've lived through that now, so I don't have to revisit it. I think that was one of the first things when I did my first personal development course towards the end of last year was like redefining success and realizing that the idea of success in my head wasn't mine at all. It was just something that I'd acquired. And then once you're aware that that's happening, you get to revisit it and figure out what do you actually want? What does success look like to you? And that's been like one of the key things that's completely changed like my direction, which has been amazing. So
Yeah,
I love that you're creating space for women to kind of do that inner work as well, and then the flow on effects that that will obviously have into their business world as well.
yeah. Gosh, yes, it's amazing. What we feel like is possible, what we feel like we're worthy of, what we feel like we are deserving of, deeply shows up in our business. And if there's a
Mm,
lot there, and usually what we've seen like already what we see to be possible can be kind of create this like limiting barrier of what it is that we can create, manifest abundance wise, client wise, the work that we're offering, right? So
mm,
it's almost like we are clearing out all of these
yes.
old structures and paradigms that aren't necessarily perhaps where you're stepping into, and maybe you're actually someone creating a completely new way. And a huge
Mm,
part of your journey is to maybe live in that and really feel what it feels like to be limited in that, so that you can actually learn that, okay, this isn't what I want. I'm going to create something
mm,
different, and move through that, which isn't always easy, but
yeah.
is extremely rewarding. And when you're on the other
Yes.
side, you get to create your own way, and you get to, really decide what you want, and perhaps see what you've taken on from other people and love them for that. And there's nothing
Mm,
wrong with other people's, choices and beliefs and everything, but you get to really empower yourself to create a new way in a way that
Mm,
is more supporting in your energy and your body and the lifestyle that you want to live.
yeah. I feel all of that.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a good place to finish it for today. I feel like we've kind of only scratched the surface, but
yeah,
we've
scratch
been
the
we've been
surface.
yarning for an hour. So
I love it. It's been so good. And one
uh,
thing that I feel like I just feel drawn to share with before we really fully close up is, as
mm,
we were saying, like creating that new way. I heard this analogy one day of this woman. She's saying how she, it's like running. Like a lot of runners, they'd run in a team, and they would have that one person at the front, and they were called the windbreaker. And
mm,
so when you're the windbreaker and you're like that one at the front, you kind of cop all the wind, you cop everything. And
yeah,
so
it's
that it's
hard work.
easier for the people behind you, right?
Mm,
So I feel like that's even the same analogy for if you're creating a new way in your industry or a new way in the life that you're choosing, you're like copying it at the beginning, it's going to make it easier for everyone else to come through. And I think when you can look at it that way, like, okay, I'm actually like I'm helping not only myself, but I'm helping all the people that perhaps are also wanting to create.
yeah, I love love that analogy, and I guess it kind of gives you that perspective that you can actually see, like on a day-to-day basis. You just feel like you're constantly pushing, and it's all hard work, and it's all uphill. But taking that step back and realizing that it's got a bigger purpose and the people that you'll be helping behind you just kind of lightens it a little
Gosh,
bit.
yeah, gosh, yeah, and it's only going to get
Mm,
better.
yes. Thank you so much for joining me. I will put your contact details in the show notes so everyone can find you. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
thank you. It's been so much fun.